So welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is John with SwingFit. In today's video, we have another head-to-head comparison for you, where we're going to take a look at the brand new Callaway Apex 21 iron versus the JPX 921 Hotmetal Pro. And there are a lot of similar characteristics between these two irons, and although one iron did perform a little better than the other, doesn't necessarily mean that the other iron wouldn't be a better fit for your swing, which is truly where the value of the club fitting process comes in. And having access to a club fitter can potentially be the difference of selecting the correct head to not only help you hit the ball a little bit farther, but also to help you mitigate those pain points that's currently impacting your game. And if you stick with us until the very end, I have a really cool bonus tip that could potentially help you swing the club a little faster, because this is what we share with our customer. And I'm talking at the tail end of the fitting session when the customer's really got nothing left in the tank, and he was able to find another 3 to 4 more miles an hour with just this one tip. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So before we dive into today's topic, I first off want to welcome any new viewers that's out there. So if this happens to be your first time, or if you're just passing through, then do yourself a favor. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Because just like in today's video, I'm going to peel back the layers. I'm going to take you into a mind of a club fitter to help you understand what I like, what I don't like, what is the thought process that goes behind selecting certain heads, certain shafts, and why I might be doing certain things as the fit progresses. Because this is truly the missing piece that I feel is often overlooked. And I feel if I take the time to help you understand what's going on upstairs, it just might help you connect the dots. So now let's talk about today's player profile, so this way we have a better understanding of the type of swing that we're working with, which is a 16 handicapper in his mid to late 40s. Now, average swing speed with a 7 iron is clocking in at about 83, 84 mile an hour, and average carry distance about 150 to 152. So I know at that level of input, with his neutral delivery and solid swing, he should actually be hitting the ball a little bit farther, so I don't think his clubs is doing him any favors. And the customer did disclose that he's never bought a set of irons before. He's played nothing but hand-me-down, so I'm not surprised that the customer was kind of getting the results that he was describing. And with the desired shot shape of working a little right to left, protect against that left side, I know we got to get him out of his current gamers, which is these bad boys right here. The Callaway Steelhead X14 irons. Really, really good head back in its day, but when it's paired with a DGX 100 at the customer's current swing speed, I know it's not the right fit, and I'm not surprised at all that he's struggling with that miss to the left, because he did say that he just feels he has to work so hard of squaring that face up. And there's no disputing that the head, the shaft, the weight, and the flex will all be major variables in today's fitting session. And when I see results like this, one of the best things I like to do when I take our customers through the fitting process is to take them to the other end of the spectrum. And what I mean by that is the very first combination I want to pull out of the drawer is a different head style, a little lower CG, a little hotter face, a little bit more forgiving, and I also want to go with a lighter weight shaft and a softer flex. So the shots you're now starting to see is with the brand new Apex 21 iron. Customer said he liked Callaway, so it was a no-brainer. Let's pull it out and just compare new against old. And then the shaft we decided is the stock Elevate ETS 95 stiff shaft. So definitely night and day difference from that of what the customer had been playing. And as you've seen, there's some good shots in here and some bad shots, but I really believe there's enough good shots in here that I can actually make a decision on which way we need to go next. So let's take a look. And you guys know me by now, the very first thing I like to look at is club speed versus ball speed separation, just to see how efficient and how effective this head is that we chose. So Apex head, a little lower CG, should help get the ball up in the air, and it should be somewhat of a ball speed monster. So let's take a look. Average output 106, best 109, so not too shabby. And definitely 109 at 80. I mean, that's really good. I mean, heck, that's 29 miles an hour separations, 136 efficiency. So I like the head so far, really good. Let's look at his delivery. You know, once again, little shallow delivery, averaging about 0.6 down. Path in to out almost about 4 degrees, and then face still shutting it down. So here guys, look, when I go lighter weight shaft and I see it didn't really impact the face closer, I know that, you know, weight didn't really have that much of a bearing here. So probably next shaft, I'm gonna go a little higher weight or heavier weight. So let's go back and look at the ball data once again. Let's go cross, launch, not too bad. Would like to maybe get it up a little higher. Backspin, same thing, a little higher. Descent, yeah, I mean, all three of those just a little higher, okay? Apex as well. So if I had to nitpick about that first round, want to still protect against the left side and actually get some of those numbers up a little bit higher. So here's my thought. Same head, but we're going to go with the Accra Isteel. It's a 115 weight, stiff flex, just to see what that does. So let's watch these tracers unfold. And I can already tell I love this shot shape. I mean, literally, ball is starting right at the target line, either just finishing left of the flag or right of the flag. The only thing I'm not happy with is I think we're losing a little bit of distance. And this may be as a direct result of the shaft we're in, because the customer did state, you know, that this shaft felt a little weird at impact. He felt like maybe the head would just release and pass the hands. So let's take a look at the numbers. And I'm already starting to see some numbers I like, but I also see a couple numbers that I'm not happy with. So let's peel back the layers. And if you remember from the first one, we was trying to just increase launch, backspin, descent angle, peak apex, get that up without impacting anything else. And just understand that there's always a potential trade-off whenever we're making changes, and it's just finding that right balance. And then when we look across the board here, 105, ball speed came down a little bit, so I'm not happy with that. Backspin, launch, descent, and apex all improved. So I'm definitely happy that we got the ball higher up in the air, but also look at carry distance. That actually dropped. So ball speed and carry was impacted by making this change. And if you remember, customer made a statement that it felt like the club head was just passing his hands, and the way to verify that is to just see how much dynamic loft was presented at impact. So when we go over to the club view, yeah, sure enough, take a look. So we went from averaging 29 previously to averaging 32. The worst was 34 and 33.4. So literally we added roughly about 3 to 4 degrees of dynamic loft. So the Accra Isteel, definitely a little higher launching shaft, a little bit more active tip, getting the ball up in the air, getting that head out of trail deflection, presenting a little extra loft. So not a bad option for somebody that needs that, but just not good for this customer. So what I'm thinking now is I'm gonna try the same head, the KBS Money Taper Lite. So I'm gonna go back down a little in weight. We're gonna go around 100 to 105, throw this in just to see how this thing's performed. So let's take a look at these tracers. So not a bad change whatsoever. Not only was we able to keep the ball up in the air, but we was also able to reclaim some of those missing yards. So if the fit ended here, I would be completely fine and confident that the customer would be in a better position than he was before he came in. But let's take a look at the numbers. So definitely we've seen the hottest ball speed we've seen all day, 107 average. Launch, not as high as the previous one, but that's a good thing, right? So we're still higher than the first one, so we're at 22. Backspin, 5,000. Carry distance, 153. So really, this has been the best. And when you look at that top right box, just look how tight our grouping is and how close that center line was. The previous one was really damn good. We just lost distance, and that's not acceptable. But here's the explanations of why the golf shaft is so critical in the fitting process. Because if you remember, the last shaft we tried, that Isteel had a very active tip, and that club head would actually pass the hands, add more dynamic loft. That created more spin, which we're looking at, caused the distance to go shorter. So when we look at the club delivery numbers, take a look, right? 27 degrees dynamic loft is the lowest that we've seen. And when you also look up his top right corner, you can see that it was the highest strike point. Everything else was too low. What does this tell you? This tells you that this apex head likes to be struck a couple grooves higher than the bottom. So if your tendency is to strike it low on the face, pick the ball clean, really catch it low on that bottom groove, This head probably is not the best head for you, and that's why I believe the JPX 921 Hotmetal Pro is going to be a better fit. So here's my thought. We're going to actually pair the 921 Hotmetal Pro with the last KBS Money Taper Lite shaft to see how it works. So let's take a look at the tracers. So I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but other than that errant shot to the right, everything was now missing left again. So it's almost like we took a step back. And this is just a prime example of how a shaft that works well in one head may not be the best shaft in another. I do like some of the other characteristics, so let's take a look at the numbers. And when we look at the compare tab here, ball speed for the very first time, went over 110, so 111, and this isn't out of the norm for the 921 Hotmetal Pros. Really see this being a ball speed monster, so I like that. But look at launch, backspin, it both came down, and you can also see top left that it's just a little lower apex. So those were all the things we was trying to improve. So once again, we kind of taken a step back. I love the head, just not the right shaft. So next up, we're gonna stay around the same weight category, and we're gonna actually pop him into the DG105. So let's take a look at those tracers. So I like those shots a lot better than the previous shaft. The only thing I'm not happy with is dispersion left to right started to get away from us a little bit, but everything else was super, super good. So let's kind of take a look at the numbers, the tail of the tape, and compare the last Apex version versus the Hotmetal Pro DG105. This way we're comparing apples to apples. And when we take a look at the numbers here, you can see ball speed is better in the Pro. 109.5, once again, that's just because of where we're striking it on the face, works out a lot better here. Launch is a little bit higher, backspin's a little higher, and you can definitely see it's getting the ball up in the air. So I really like everything about this, with the exception of this top right box. You see that ellipsis? It's really just a little wider than I want. I want that grouping to be a lot tighter. The extra yards is perfect. If we can tighten it up, I'm gonna be super, super happy. So here's what we're gonna do, all right? Customer said that this one felt the absolute best, but it was kind of curious what happens if we even went a little lighter, right? Could that help him swing the club a little faster? So we're gonna try the exact same shaft that we had in the original Apex. We're gonna put the Elevate 95 stiff shaft in the Hotmetal Pro 921 just to see how it works. So let's take a look at the tracers. So when we see shots like this, especially at the tail end of the fitting, that we get super pumped. Why? Because we know that the customer is all but tapped out. And literally, if he can produce consistent results at the tail end of a fitting session, then we're confident that this club will work well when he's nice and fresh. So let's take a look at the numbers just to see how much better this thing actually performed than that of the other one. And heck, actually, let's just compare this to the best version of the Apex. So let's look at the numbers. So when I bring this up, you can see that ball speed was 2 more miles an hour faster than the best Apex. You can see top left, height was a little bit better. When you look at launch and backspin, they're almost a complete wash, almost identical. But you can see that because of that extra height, we're actually carrying the ball a little bit farther. And once again, you might think that I'm just splitting hairs here, but really it's about checking boxes. If I can actually help the customer pick up an extra 4 or 5 extra yards, just simply by making a change, then why wouldn't I do that? I mean, because literally, I mean, all the boxes are so damn close. It's just this one here was a little tighter to the center line. When you look at that top right, I mean, nice same tight ellipsis as to that of the Apex, just a little straighter and a little farther. And this really brings us to the conclusion of today's fit, but yet there's one more bonus here that we gotta share. And this little tip could potentially help you pick up a couple extra mile-an-hour club head speed to hit the ball just a little bit farther. And if you don't believe me, take a look at these tracers. So if that's not a jaw-dropping moment, I don't know what else would be. I mean, literally the customer went from 84 to 87, 88 mile-an-hour club head speed, and he went from 157 average carry to 166, 167, just like you've seen. And here is the tip that we shared. Because what we noticed is that the customer's hips wasn't fully opening up in his backswing. I mean, it was only moving maybe about 5 to 10 degrees, and we did catch on to this a little bit early on in the fit, but we don't like introducing any of those technique changes until the very end. We kind of use it as like icing on a cake. But once again, we do know if you want to swing it a little bit faster, getting a bigger turn can help, and unlocking the hips is one of the keys to success. So the seed that we planted was to feel like you're actually pushing your right butt cheek back against the wall and in behind you, so that way when you rotate, that the hips are actually opening up first as far as they will go, and then just let the shoulders just get a little bit deeper, and that in itself can help you tap into about 4 or 5 extra mile an hour, just like you've seen tonight. So in closing, we truly hope you found value in this information we shared with you today. And if nothing else, we at least now hope you have a little better understanding of what goes on in the mind of a club fitter. So don't forget to take a look at one of these videos over here to the side, because this is my go-to resource anytime I need technique advice. This is my man, Cogorno, and he's going to help you understand a little bit more on how to unlock those hips. So guys, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next week.